Okay, so this is from an article from Kasasa.com. Boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z explained from the birth years of 1981 to 1996. Current age 25 to 40. Other nicknames Gen Y, Gen Me, Gen We, Echo Boomers. In the United States, there are about 72 million millennials. Media consumption. 95% still watch TV, but Netflix edges out traditional cable as the preferred provider. Cord cutting in favor of streaming services is the popular choice. This generation is extremely comfortable with mobile devices, but 32% will still use a computer for purchases. They typically have multiple social media accounts. Banking habits. Millennials have less brand loyalty than previous generations. They prefer to shop product and features first and have little patience for inefficient or poor service. Because of this, millennials place their trust in brands with superior product history, such as Apple and Google. They seek digital tools to help manage their debt and see their bags as transactional as opposed to relational. Shaping events. The Great Recession, the technology explosion of the internet and social media, and 9/11. What's next on their financial horizon? Millennials are powering the workforce, but with huge amounts of student debt. This is delaying major purchases like weddings and homes. Because of this financial instabilities, millennials choose access over ownership, which can be seen through their preference for on-demand services. They want partners that will help guide them to their big purchases. The characteristics of millennials vary by region and by individual, and the group experiences a variety of social and economic conditions, but they are generally marked by their coming of age in the information age and are comfortable in their usage of digital technologies and social media. Millennial households, those headed by people aged 22 to 37, are earning more money than ever. A median income of $69,000 a year, according to a Pew Research Center analysis of new census data. As a new generation of Americans begins to take shape and move toward adulthood, there is mounting interest in their attitudes, behavior, and lifestyle. But how will this generation change the demographic fabric of the United States? A new Pew Research Center analysis of Census Bureau data finds that the post-millennial generation is already the most radically and ethnically diverse generation, as a bare majority of 6 to 21-year-olds, 52%, are non-Hispanic whites. And while most are still pursuing K-12 education, the oldest post-millennials are enrolling in college at a significantly higher rate than millennials were at a comparable age. Millennials are tech savvy. Generation Y grew up with technology, and they rely on it to perform their jobs better. Armed with smartphones, laptops, and other gadgets, this generation is plugged in 24/7. They like to communicate through email, text messaging, and whatever new social media platform, Twitter, Instagram, friends and colleagues are using. This is a generation that can't even imagine a world without the internet or cell phones. The fast track lifestyle has lost much of its appeal for millennials. The members of this generation are willing to trade high pay for fewer billable hours, flexible schedules, and a better work-life balance. Millennials have a different idea of workplace expectations. Millennials usually prioritize family over work, and even those that aren't married with children feel the need to be part of a family and spend time with nieces, nephews, and siblings. Nurtured and pampered by parents who don't want to make the mistakes of the previous generation, millennials are confident, ambitious, and achievement oriented. They also have high expectations of their employers, tend to seek new challenges at work, and aren't afraid to question authority. Generation Y wants meaningful work and a solid learning curve. Millennials are team oriented. While growing up, most millennial boys and girls participated in team sports, play groups, and other group activities, whether it was soccer or ballet. They value teamwork and seek the input and affirmation of others. Millennials are the true no person left behind generation, loyal and committed. They want to be included and involved. Generation Y craves attention, feedback, and guidance. They appreciate being kept in the loop and often need frequent praise and reassurance. Millennials may benefit greatly from mentors who can help guide and develop their talents. This is where the boomers come in handy because, although mostly retired, they have something to offer, and monitoring millennials is one way they can continue to contribute to the workforce. A potential downside for Generation Y workers is that they're always looking for something new and better. It's not uncommon for a millennial to stay with a firm for only 2 or 3 years before moving on to a position they think is better. The resumes you receive from millennial job seekers will undoubtedly demonstrate this peppered job history. Don't discount members of this generation just because they've worked for several firms. These young employees bring with them a variety of experiences. Unlike previous generations, they do not take a job and then hold on to it for as long as humanly possible. Instead, they go out and create a new app or fund a trendy startup. Generation Y possesses many characteristics that are unique in comparison to past generations. They tend to be excited about their jobs, and they will work hard and efficiently. They might approach their superiors as equals, more so than previous generations, but companies can take steps to draw a line between the supervisor and a friend. When that line is drawn, millennials will not only work tirelessly for you, but they will show you the respect due a supervisor with many years of experience. psychology. Authors William Strauss and Neil Howe argue that each generation has common characteristics that give it a specific character with four basic generational archetypes repeating in a cycle. According to their hypothesis, they predicted millennials would become more like the civic-minded GI generation with a strong sense of community, both local and global. Strauss and Howe ascribe 7 basic traits to the millennial cohort: special, sheltered, confident, team-oriented, conventional, pressured, and achieving. However, Arthur E. Levine, author of When Hope and Fear Collide, a portrait of today's college student, dismissed these generational images as stereotypes. In addition, psychologist Jean Twenge says Strauss and Howe's assertions are overly deterministic, non-falsifiable, and unsupported by rigorous evidence. Polling agency Ipsos Mori warned that the word millennial is misused to the point where it is often mistaken for just another meaningless buzzword, because many of the claims made about millennial characteristics are simplified, misinterpreted, or just plain wrong, which can mean real differences getting lost. And that, equally important, are the similarities between other generations, the attitudes and behaviors that are staying the same are sometimes just as important and surprising. Contrary to common misconception, millennials respond well to conventional marketing, even as their consumption patterns change, for example, because they have more debt and are less likely to commit. A 2015 study by Microsoft found that 77% of respondents aged 18 to 24 said yes to the statement, quote, "When nothing is occupying my attention, the first thing I do is reach for my phone," compared to just 10% for those aged 65 and over. Okay, so that's a real brief introduction to millennials, and we will go further on the next slide.